Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. For everyone that I already work with, great to see you again. And for everyone that I haven't met yet, my name's Tim. I'm an account manager at Solutions Plus. So my role is working with organizations to help make sure the systems that they're investing in are actually useful, and not just at go live, but in the day-to-day running of that business, whether that's from a finance or reporting point of view, but also across the way their teams actually work. Today's session is going to be focused on asset governance, operational visibility, and long-term planning. More specifically, we're going to look at how asset information can become more useful when it's captured properly, connected properly, and then used across the business from maintenance and operations right through to finance, planning, procurement, and reporting. So we're joined on the webinar today by Simone and Clint from Brightly. Simone is a channel sales manager, so she works closely with organizations looking to improve the way they manage their assets, maintenance, and long-term planning. And she's going to help set the scene around Brightly, where they fit, and why asset management is such an important conversation for established organizations that may already have systems and processes in place, but are still dealing with fragmented data and manual reporting and limited visibility. Clint, account director from Brightly, he brings a really practical view of asset management data, including how that information is actually captured by the people doing the work, why that foundation matters, and then how better data can support better decisions over time. He's also going to touch on everyone's favorite two letters, AI, and where that starts to become useful, but in a really grounded way, once the data underneath it is reliable enough to support it. So between Simone and Clint, we'll get both sides of the conversation, that kind of bigger picture around asset management, maturity and planning, and then the practical side of how that data is captured, connected, and then used day to day. Before I hand over to them, I'm just going to start with a few quick poll questions, just to give us an idea of what sort of things people in the room are doing. Not a test, no wrong answers or anything like that, but gives us a real good feel of where everyone's at. So the first one should pop up on the screen. If not, you'll find it in your chat. Is how is maintenance work coordinated in your business today? Is it mostly phone calls, emails, or a verbal handover? Trev tells you to do it through spreadsheets, whiteboards, or shared docs, in a maintenance system, but not connected to other teams, or in a connected workflow with clear scheduling, ownership, and updates. I'll give you guys a moment on that. The second question, when parts are needed for a maintenance job, how are those approvals typically handled? 1, informally by phone message or a verbal sign-off. 2, by an email or a manual approval step. 3, via your ERP or purchasing workflows, but separate to a maintenance tool. Or 4thly, through an integrated process linked to the work order, the stock, and procurement. And then lucky last, how quickly could you find a complete and reliable history of your assets? Under a minute, 1 to 5 minutes, but not necessarily reliable. Up to 15 minutes, but the data might be incomplete. Or in a slow spread across systems and not consistent update. Perfect. Thank you guys so much for that. That's really useful. And it lines up well with what we're going to cover today. So with that, I'll hand over to Simone. Simone. I've still got you on mute. Sorry, Simone. Gotcha.
I wish I had $1 for every time that was said to me.
It's good luck, Simone.
Thank you so much, Tim. Super excited to be here today. And what I'm going to go through today is a little bit around Brightly and who we are, and then also some of the trends that we're seeing, some of the challenges that people see in their world today. So who is Brightly? Brightly is owned by Siemens. We were bought by Siemens a couple of years ago, but we are 25 years old. And over those last 25 years, we've been enriching our software to see how we can help manufacturers in their day-to-day asset management life. 25 years young, as I like to call it, but in that 25 years, we've created over 35 million work orders to help your assets perform at their optimum, to make sure that production line keeps going. We've got 12,000 clients worldwide. So we started in the US, we're also now in the UK, and of course, Australia and New Zealand. $425 billion worth of assets sit in our software, and we help you manage those day to day. When we started to look at this webinar, I really started to do some deep dive into manufacturers in Australia and New Zealand and some of the kind of issues that they face today with their assets. And of course, 85% of manufacturers report recruitment challenges. And when I start to look at things like recruitment challenges, I start to think about how can our software help with those recruitment challenges? How can it provide a process within the software that can enable an AI piece or an automation piece that can really help to smooth things along with your asset management? What really gets to me is 349K an hour of assets. That's unplanned downtime. That's super scary. That means unplanned downtime of your assets means that your production line isn't working as designed. It means your output slows or stops, and it means you can't fulfill your orders. And 34% of manufacturers are telling us that it's aging equipment. So again, I come back and I go, wow, how can we as a company help these manufacturers ensure that their production line keeps going, ensure they maintain those aging assets at an optimum to make sure that you're delivering out output of your goods. Every single person here is an established manufacturer. You're all fantastic at what you do in your own rights. But even the most established teams hit barriers. And this is where we see the barriers. Coming back to those themes that I just went through in some of those stats, we've got fragmented data. So the asset management sits over here, and your finance system or your inventory, your reporting, your live dashboard sits over here, and it's hard to get the two to connect. A shrinking workforce. Remember, the recruitment is an issue for manufacturers in Australia and New Zealand. And that shrinking workforce in ANZ is really hurting people. And here's my two favorite words of the day: defensible data. Defensible data means that you understand exactly what's happening on your shop floor, your factory floor, your plant floor, at your warehouse, and you know exactly what's happening at any given time in real time to then move that data into your ERP system to make those data decisions. It's a real life dashboard that we're moving into. You can forward think what's going to happen with your asset management. And here we are, from reactive, we call that reactive. Yeah, when your shop floor suddenly goes down, when the machine breaks down, when the aging equipment becomes an issue, we call that reactive. What we try and do with our software is make it strategic. So you understand what's about to happen. You understand the behavior of a machine because you've got all this data, and you're arming yourself, here we go again, with defensible data. Yeah, you've got that movement of data. And we shift your spend. So when you go out, when you have to do a work order, when you have to go get someone to maintain that particular piece of machinery, it shifts from reactive, oh no, it's gone down, my production floor stopped. So hang on a minute, we know that this machine's going to need a bit of help in a couple of months. So how about we plan that work order? We get Bob or Jenny out onto that floor, and we make sure they maintain that aging machine. So it's that strategic planning that comes into effect, and we use Asset Essentials. And we use Asset Essentials as the software that we're using to enable this strategic movement of your asset management program. When we talk about asset management maturity journey, I really think of this slide really always makes me think of a mobile phone, right? We go from analog to the smartphones now. We've got many computers in our phones, right? Your warehouse, your plant, your facility, right? Your shop floor is no different to the journey, the journey that they've been on in being connected and understanding what's available to you to manage those assets. We come from siloed, on-prem, and it's reactive, yeah. In our plants, we get connected, right? We start to put things together. What's available to us, really the Internet of Things, everything's starting to build, and we can start to get that platform of data. But then we end up at smart facilities, and this is where those two letters comes into it, that AI, and that's what Clint is going to take you through now, is that smart facility and what we can do with you with those smart facilities. You're on mute, Clint.
So it looks like we need to add $1 to the jar each there, Simone. Hey, thanks, Simone. When we talk about smart facilities, the first thing I like to do is ground us back down to the basics. And I'll talk about the vision of how we approach enterprise asset management, or centralized maintenance management system, CMMS, as the acronym in the industry suggests. And what we're looking to do is we're extend the asset value and ultimately reduce the cost of ownership, but bring up the productivity of that asset. We want to enable continuous improvement based on the actual actions that's happening in the workforce. We're looking to have the parallel or a digital twin, as we phrase it, on the actions that the worker or the coordinator is doing out in the facility when it comes to maintenance or asset performance is being replicated in a foundational data or a digital fabric. And then another element which is really important is provide unmatched integration. So you're going to hear a term that we've coined the symphony of data. So making sure that the tools that are doing the actions are the right tools, but it's also the carrier for data across the organization. So we can be looking at an enterprise level and looking at how the business operates on what it's meant to be doing, not laser focus on silos. So, foundation data. The first key to getting good foundation data is enabling our teams to actually capture that data, enable it so that they find things easier to record than, I guess, not focusing on the task at hand and then having the burden of reports, which may be secondary. So we want this to be in symphony with what they're doing as they're actioning. The user interface that they're using is not only giving them advice, and they are able to report, which allows that symphony of data to start playing through. We want to remove that manual data shift from paper. We want to get rid of all that good intel that's been written down on paper with good intent that doesn't make it back into the system because the other priorities take over. And essentially, we're setting ourselves up for the theme that we started off with today, AI. Another really important part of the digital fabric is the seamless integration that we're talking to. And this is why we're here today with our partner Solutions Plus, because we go out to industry not as professionals in a silo and specific to the task that we're trying to at hand. We're looking at the enterprise as a whole and how as a team that we can provide the digital support that's required. We want to break down these islands and we want to provide a unified view. So essentially, as Simone was alluding to, smarter decisions based on defensible data. And this is where we're heading. In the modern world, AI is a big part of it. The big thing I'm hearing in industry is AI is good, but how can I adopt it in my workplace? For one, it's actually trusted intelligence and secure. And how can we actually leverage what we're hearing all about? And that foundation data is a critical part on moving forward. An analogy we like to use is sharpening the tool. So it's a reiterative process. No one's got a perfect data set from day one. There's always gaps, incomplete work orders, maybe there's missing parts in the inventory, or we just don't know what activity we're looking to do. If we start with the process where the technicians are able to implement the data, actually enter the data, we're going to start a cycle where the data gaps actually fill. AI is able to analyze that data and may suggest what could be done better. We're going to action the task again. We're going to enter the data. We're going to fill more gaps. AI then helps us. And you can see that what we call the AI flywheel starts spinning up. And ultimately, we're just after our technicians to be able to get the right parts at the right time, faster working when you're completing tasks, and having support at 2 a.m. if you're, say, on a bottling line and production's watching you as you try and bring that machine up and running again. And then our manager and our coordinated team, they're getting the results that they're after, being able to use defensible data for decisions on assets in regards to preventive maintenance schedules, possibly looking at high-risk assets, and being able to coordinate above or report above to the board on where to invest in the future. Now, recognizable figure possibly for all the nerds like me out there, Jensen Hung from NVIDIA, and on our right's our CEO, Roland Bush. So I bring this up because when we are talking about AI, and I do hear this in the manufacturing sector, it seems like a good theory, but how do we actually adopt it? Well, even at this level here, Roland and Jensen have created a partnership where they're focusing on the adoption of AI in manufacturing in an OT level. So there is a big movement in industry to focus on how to adopt AI and how they can get performance from their clients. And it's nice to come from a fabric of Siemens where this is a strategic pillar for them to provide to their clients. But what's my point today? No product is an island is what I want to highlight. Software can have best intentions to say, hey, we can look after you at a complete enterprise level. But I believe if we have the best tools looking after the applications specific to the organization, so the ERP, looking after the finance and the inventory and what's important at a ERP level, and then you have the EAM that's looking at the maintenance tasks and delivering on the scheduling for preventive maintenance, and then you might have the MES system and the OT system and the SCADAs operating the factory. If they're all linked together and we're working in that symphony, we're going to have a better result through team effort of software. How we do it, we call it weaving the digital fabric. So we're creating an integration studio, which primarily in the purpose of today and working with partners like Solution Plus is having off-the-shelf integrations with key ERPs, replicating operations that are standard in the manufacturing world. So the user can set up and field map and have that data running back and forth. But we also want to start talking to our machines and remove the operator requirement to communicate to our systems. So having IoT sensors into our asset management system allows us to automatically trigger workflows and speed up that productivity. We understand, though, every manufacturing organization is different and there are unique circumstances. Hey, it's probably what makes that manufacturing organization competitive because they are approaching things differently. And we have that ability with open APIs just to customize that integration for whatever application and still be able to use the powerful tools that Asset Essentials provide. And then finally, we're setting ourselves up for success with AI. And we're looking to foster AI and implement that in our systems. Foundational data does sound sometimes like a complex scientific theory, but it's not. It's very simple. And I'm not trying to pretend there's anything hard about this. It's all about getting that data in the right forum and make sure we're capturing a high percentage of that data.
I think I might jump in there if that's okay and sort of pick up on
Sure.
What you're talking about there about having the right information captured at the right time by the people doing the work. I guess that's where we see the ERP conversation start to matter as well, right? Like most of the organizations we work with and that are on the call already have a really strong system in place for approvals and financial control. Like that part's pretty well structured. I guess where it can break down is earlier in that process and how the work's actually done, how that information's captured and how reliable it is before it hits the ERP. So I guess that's sort of a long-winded question from me, but how do you make it easy for the team on the ground to capture that information in real time without getting in the way of them, doing the job and just creating more admin?
Yeah, great. And I'm just running a video here, an example of this. So this is our mobile application for Asset Essentials. And what we're showing here is that this is a fast way for someone that has a device that's in most of our pockets, a mobile tablet or a phone, and we capture the data by essentially replicating the process. So say if a technician's going out, they may want to communicate with their colleagues. So we can, in that work order, in that workflow, we can talk to our colleagues. We may want to understand which parts we need quickly. So if we've got a depository that's actually connected to your ERP, we can actually see the parts that's available and actually scan and find out what part we need and also what part we're going to execute with. We can document, like I'm showing here, where we can actually communicate instead of trying to type it with literature. We can use visual aids just to demonstrate to our team. So there's many ways to skin this, but what we're trying to show here is that with a good application where a digital tool is in place, we can get that information coming into our ecosystem.
That's really cool. I guess once the work's captured correctly, then the ERP is there to manage approvals and cost, and validate spend or approve your procurement and do those sorts of things, and make sure you're aligning to your financial controls. So you're not actually using the ERP to manage the work itself. That's not really fit for that purpose. It's more governing those approvals. I guess that's interesting as well. That's where it starts to add value here as well. There's kind of that shift, and you're not duplicating effort. I guess the point we're seeing here is you can capture it in the asset platform, and then the ERP isn't kind of a double up or a recapture of that information. It's just consuming the information that you're able to capture easily at the source.
You're hitting a really good note there. So you mentioned approvals and workflows through the ERP, and this is what I'm talking about on the right tool doing the right thing. So for instance, in this scenario, as that technician was capturing data, or they actually had suggestions on what to do with that maintenance, the data is sitting in that environment and directing that person to do that action. However, there was a organizational workflow. When I hit order and I had no spare inventory, there is an approval process. So by clicking order, I've got that automated flow into your ERP, and then we can sync with the rules of your organization with ERP to do that approval process. And our system will recognize that, and it'll be waiting, order pending. And then when that process in the ERP is done, ordered, delivered, I've got the part, I can go action, I can keep going with my task at hand.
Yeah, cool. So if you've got the right approvals in place, the procurement's kind of managed properly, all those costs are tracked, and everything's reflected back through the financial reporting. So you get that control and visibility. But I guess the key thing is you're not slowing down the operational teams.
That's it. And also the rules of workflow in your ERP system are very important from a finance perspective. But hey, the audit trail that you need maybe for HACCP, for critical control points, ensuring that we've done the right things and we can come back on an audit, is sitting in the enterprise asset management. And you would have seen as possibly as that order closed out, we can even put the approvals that, hey, I've signed off and done this. So it's all about where the workflow process needs to sit in the enterprise. But again, the symphony of data working seamlessly.
That's really cool. I think that's probably where that's kind of the key point, I guess, for me. It's not looking to add another system or another tool in terms of just adding another tool to have another tool, but making sure it's actually doing the right job for you. And an asset platform to manage the work and the asset data, and an ERP that manages your approval and your procurement, your cost and financial reporting. If they're connected properly, you get that visibility, but you're not creating more teams during the week and more work for the teams during the work. And I guess that's kind of the symphony that you're referring to as well.
That's right. And then that symphony leads on to where we're heading. And then we've got our maintenance co-pilot and Asset Essentials. So now we've got the data, we can start using that AI, and it can do things like suggesting troubleshooting based on history, because I've had good data on the history. It can do some suggestions on which parts are available based on its sync up and understanding its inventory level with the ERP. And we can have the system supporting those technicians. So I'll circle back to the poor technician at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to fix the bottling line. You've got that personal assistance in your hand to speed up that productivity, because that's what we're here to do in the maintenance world and in the manufacturing world, create better productivity.
That's really cool. Thank you very much, Clint. That was really useful. I think that's probably a good place to wrap from us. Thank you very much for showing us that. That Copilot stuff's really cool. I think for me, in terms of wrapping up, kind of three main points from what we learned today. I guess the first is that asset data is really only valuable if it's reliable and usable. And I think from conversations I would have had with people on this call, a lot of organizations have a lot of information, but it sort of sits in different places, or it might be captured manually or updated after the fact, and it can be hard to trust and act on. And that defensible data that Simone mentioned earlier is sort of really key. The second is that people that are closest to the work are kind of critical to getting the data right, the people doing the work. If the frontline team can capture the right information at the right time in a way that's easy for them to use, then everything downstream just gets stronger. The maintenance planning or compliance or reporting and procurement and forecasting and financial control that we looked at all benefit from that better foundation. The third, asset management and ERP should not be thought of as completely separate worlds. They are different tools and they have a different role to play, but of course the asset platform can help manage the